Okay, hi everyone. We are live. I'm Debbie Schwartz, the founder of Road to College and the Paying for College 101 Facebook group. And I'm here tonight with Marissa Medin of Talk College to Me. And this is round 2 of our Facebook Live. We're back again, right? We did this last night at 8:30 p.m., but the platform we were using honestly crashed. So we tried to get back on, but we couldn't. So we're using a new platform tonight, and we're back and we'll probably start from the beginning, but we're going to be talking about all the critical and crucial dates you should know as a parent of a high school student. And Marissa has but we're going to be talking about oh, that's okay. I'm going to let Marissa talk for just a few minutes, and I'm going to go and share this so other people can see it, and then we'll get back and we'll get started.
Perfect. So while she's sharing that, I keep having this live here. So welcome everybody tonight. Thank you for joining us. Again, if you were here last night, or newly, if you couldn't make it last night and are here now. So we are, as Debbie said, on a new platform that, fingers crossed, will not crash on us midway through. We were so upset because I feel like everybody was so excited and learning so many things, and we had to, we just kind of got cut off in the middle. So we're going to start from the beginning again tonight to walk through the 10 most crucial dates to know for parents who have kids in high school. So whether you have a freshman, sophomore, junior, or rising senior, or even we had some awesome dates for people who had kids rising in middle school. So happy you guys are preparing. Again, this information is super helpful to everybody, whether you're in the thick of it, as we get, to the last dates towards, that are super relevant for the end of, for senior year and the end of junior year, or if you are a freshman, sophomore, or earlier, and are just kind of getting the feel for what you're going to need to know. It's just going to help you feel a whole lot more at ease. So excited to go through this again tonight. And again, I'll try to breeze through the first 3. I think we got through the first 5.5. So I'll try to breeze through those a little bit quicker this time, since some of you probably already heard it. And then we'll get to those last dates that are so important as well towards the end of senior year. So anything else, Debbie?
Sorry, I'm back. I missed what you were saying because I had been sharing. So
no problem. I was just giving an introduction and say what happened last night. We'll kind of start over, try to breeze through the first 5 or so, but we'll definitely go through in case there's anybody who is with us tonight that couldn't join us last night.
Oh, okay. People say hi. Rebecca. Yes, thanks for returning. Thank you for returning. Yana is here. And yeah, as you come on, say hello, give us a little comment about, what year your student is in, where you're from. Again, I don't know if Marissa mentioned, but this is a new platform for us. So we just want to make sure, A, it's working, and B, that we can see your comments. And so far we can. So I'm going to pull up our presentation. This is even, I think, a nicer format. So
yeah. Perfect. And just so you guys know, I can't see all the chats as they come in, so Debbie's going to try to monitor them for me. But again, like last time, if you guys can share as we're about to get started, what year your kid is in high school, or what they will be this coming year, and where you're joining us from, what part of the country or abroad or wherever you might be. Just helpful for us to know as we go into this. And then, feel free to ask questions along the way. And if we don't get to them, we'll try to breeze through, because I want to stick within the hour time frame as always, and we've got a lot to cover. But we'll try to answer them as we go. And if we don't answer them right then, I will stay and answer questions at the end. So we'll kind of backtrack and go over them. Anything else?
No, I think that's good. Okay. Want me to get going?
Yeah, we can get right in. So again, I apologize if this is a repeat for anybody who was on last night. Again, I'll try to be fast. So quickly, a bit about me. My name is Marissa Medin. I'm the founder of Talk College to Me, where I help parents specifically navigate the college admissions process and kind of make it a fun and easier, as easy as it can be, process for all of you guys so that you're comfortable knowing everything that you need to know to empower your own kids to have the most successful experience they can applying to colleges and get to ultimately a college that they love where they're going to thrive. That is my number one goal. So this is me with my family here and my parents when I graduated, gosh, over, I don't even know how many years ago, over 10 years, about 9 or 10 years ago, I think I graduated from the University of Michigan where I studied business. Went on to do the corporate thing for a while and just loved helping families with college admissions. And so this is what I do day in and day out now. So I want to say again who this workshop is for. I know we breezed over this last night, but really the reason I'm doing this, these 10 crucial dates that you don't want to miss, are because so many parents always had this feeling in their gut like they were missing important dates and deadlines, and it just made them uneasy. So I created this particular workshop so that you guys know what's going on, you know the path ahead, you know what you need to do, and even though there's still a lot of nuances beneath all of those, you at least kind of have the path to go. So again, these are just for parents like you who are showing up, who love your kids, who want them to get to a place that they love and where they can reach their highest potential. Again, that's what I'm here for. So we'll jump right back into number one. So date number one, and again, for anyone who's joining us new, these 10 dates are in order from starting the earliest that you need to know and then going to senior year. So for those of you who have rising seniors or juniors, stick with me for a minute because you might have already done some of these, but the end ones will be super important for everybody. So date number one is to take the PSAT, October of sophomore year. So again, this is usually sometime around October 10th to 20th each year. It varies year by year. And normally your child's school will sign your kid up. They'll kind of take care of all the logistics, but I always just say, check in with a guidance counselor or somebody to make sure that they are registered. We talked about, again, a lot of this last night, but the PSAT, first of all, it stands for the preliminary SAT or the preliminary scholastic aptitude test. And it's really just good for a couple reasons. Debbie, if you want to quickly go to the next slide. The first is that it's really good practice before they take the real test. So there's not much pressure with this test sophomore year. It's not really counted for anything. Schools aren't going to see it, so there's limited pressure, but they get to, with limited pressure, kind of get a real feel for taking this full-length standardized test, which can be really intimidating for the first time. And then the other kind of benefit is that they get a ballpark idea of the real SAT performance that they'll have. So a lot of people say, like, is this totally accurate? Is it going to say, what my kid will do? So I like to say it's a good kind of, within a couple of 100 points, usually it's going to tell you about what your kid might get on the SAT before they put in any studying or any work. So this is good for several reasons. One, you'll kind of get a feel for how much work your kid might need to do based on the schools that they're aiming to get into. And then also it's going to help you, as Debbie pointed out last night, the PSAT junior year, and we'll get into that in a minute, but there's a company that basically looks at that to see if they're going to give out national merit scholarships. So if your kid naturally performs really, really well on the PSAT their sophomore year, it might be worth it to put in a little bit more effort and time to really study and to do really well junior year. Again, just for that scholarship, because really that's all that it's good for aside from the practice. So again, no pressure here. It can only help your student. It can't hurt your kid if they get a bad score. So I always recommend taking it even though they're not required. Anything else, Debbie, from this date number one?
No, nothing else I can think of. I think that was good.
Perfect. And we've had the practice.
I had a little funny comment. My only other comment was, this is also the date that starts all the direct mail to your house.
Yes, when you give them that information, it all comes flooding in. That's funny. But very valid. All right, so date number 2 is to sign up for the SAT or ACT prep course the summer between sophomore and junior year. So this is really the time that they want to dedicate and hone in on either focusing on the SAT or the ACT and really preparing for it while they have time away from their classes and extracurricular activities and all of that. So we'll talk about in a minute, the first time they're going to want to take the test is at the beginning of junior year. So by dedicating the summer is really a fabulous time to start to learn the tips, the tricks, the ins and outs, and everything they need to know. So there's several different ways to study. Again, you could do an in-person group course at like a local center nearby to your home. You can hire a one-on-one personal tutor. There's also really great online programs that teach you, and they can take tests online and practice and see what they're getting right and wrong and all of those things. So there's no one way, there's no right or wrong way to study. I always say, you know your kid best, what kind of setting is going to be best for them. And again, it takes, I say 1 to 2 months because depending on how, if they dedicate all day, every day for a month straight, they might be solid and ready to take the test. But if they're busy doing other activities in the summer, you're traveling and they only have, a couple hours every night or something, it might take a little bit longer. So just kind of think about this summertime as when can they dedicate a good amount of time. And it really does take effort. I always wish, I think that people kind of assume it's this like natural test that people, it's like your natural ability and how smart you are. But really, it's all about how well you can learn to take the test, in my opinion. So putting in the time and studying really does make a difference.
So Marissa, Ingrid had a question about if there's any advice about what to look for in a good SAT or ACT test prep company or a tutor. How do they make sure that they're picking somebody good?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think, looking at their background, how long they've been doing it, if they have proven results, I think a lot of times a good way is to ask other people who have been through it before you in your school, in your neighborhood, or if anyone has recommendations. But ultimately, too, like it really depends on your kid. So, someone else might really love this tutor that they have, and if your kid just doesn't jive with them, they're going to not be happy and excited to learn from them. Maybe an online course or a group course is better. So part of it is just deciding what format really works for your kid, and then finding someone who they get along with, who has proven results. And I think just taking the time to ask them questions, and I think you'll get a feel for whether or not they really know the strategies and the tips and the tricks, and if they've had proven results with other families.
And Ingrid, I'll just give you my 2 cents because I'm going through this myself. I have a rising junior, so going to go into 11th grade next year, and we started to look for somebody, and actually got great responses from my local Facebook community group. We also wanted to try and get somebody who was local to do something in person. So that's why I went there. So if you have a good Facebook community, like local, a group where the community kind of talks about what's going on, I would definitely ask that question there. Actually, I just searched and I found a lot of people had already talked about it. So I would definitely try there.
Yeah, such a good. Debbie knows it's the power of her own Facebook groups. There's real power to, again, just asking for people who have real recommendations because they're going to have the real results for you.
And Jennifer's just asking, are there any online courses you can recommend? If I don't know if you do know, Marissa, but if you don't, we can always. We have a few people we could ask who could, and I can come back, Jennifer, and add that information for you later. But so there are good online courses if that's the route you want to go. I just don't, know them offhand. I can get you back that information.
Perfect. Yeah, and then the one other question that's on the next slide that I just wanted to touch base, that's not quite a date, but a common question I just wanted to cover because I think this is an error a lot of families make, is whether or not to take both the SAT and the ACT. So a lot of families that I've talked with or seen in the past, when they came to me, senior year, they said, my child took the SAT and they didn't get quite the score that they wanted, even though they tried. And so then they studied and took the ACT instead. And to me, this is a waste of time and resources for your kids. So Colleges do not prefer one test over the other, so it doesn't look better to take one or the other. And it also does not look better to have taken both. So I actually did this in high school. I made the same mistake myself when I didn't know better. But the reason that it's good to just focus on one is that the SAT and the ACT kind of have different tips and tricks and tactics. So if you spend time, let's say you start with the ACT and you learn, all the nuances of that test, but you don't quite perform the way you want, it's going to take far more time to learn all the tips and tricks of the SAT and perform as well, versus you've already kind of gone down a certain path with the ACT, and it's better time spent to improve and keep improving there. So that's my tip there. And then if your kid hasn't taken either one yet, I recommend taking a full-length free practice test online of both of them. Give it like the full time, half a day on different days of the week, and whichever one they naturally perform better at is the one I suggest doing. So just a couple tips and tricks there. All right, and then we already talked about the 1 to 2 months, so let's go on to date number 3. And that is...
Went the wrong way. Oh, am I going the wrong way?
Now we're going backwards. You were there.
Okay.
Perfect. Oh. You gotta know. So date number 3 is to take, again, I feel like a lot of these dates to start are all about standardized tests, because those are really the dates and the deadlines that are important to be aware of in these kind of sophomore, junior year to start. So next up is taking the PSAT again, October of junior year. So as I kind of mentioned earlier, this is the year that the National Merit Scholarship Corporation will look at the scores of all of the juniors who have taken the PSAT, and those who have the highest percentage of, it's usually, I think, top 1 to 3% of scores qualify to potentially win national merit scholarships. So again, there's nothing that can hurt your kid by taking the PSAT. So even if they didn't do well sophomore year, I still absolutely recommend taking it again junior year, mostly just as a form of practice to get comfortable with it, because it can't hurt. Maybe they'll magically do well, but colleges don't need to see the score. They only see if your kid, does make it for a high enough score to get that national merit scholarship. So that's why it says PSAT/NMSQT. I don't know who calls it that, but it's a National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. That's also how people say it. So just something to be aware of. But again, October, sophomore and junior year, just make sure with your school that, with your kid's school, that they're registered and ready to take it. So that's that. The next slide here, I just want to quickly say, and I had a bunch of people email me last night. So if you want a copy of these slides, I know you guys are probably taking notes, but at the end of this, I'll be sending slides out as well. So if you want to just take your phone out and send me an email, and if you did this last night already, I still have it, and I will send you them afterwards, so don't worry about it again. But email me at Marissa, MARISA, @talkcollegetome.com, and just put your first name in the subject line, and I'll know if you sent it right now, and I will send you the slides afterwards, just so you have them. So I don't know, Debbie, if you're able to type in a second if you want to put my email address, but I'm happy to send those out. And I got a lot of requests for those last night, even though we didn't make it through, so I will send those out. Date number 4 is to take the SAT or the ACT for the first time, and this is the very beginning of junior year. So I say sometime between August and November. It's most ideal if you can take it closer to the August side. If you go to your Google search bar and just type in SAT or ACT test dates, you'll see a quick list of all of the dates, and they change a little bit year by year, so I didn't want to give exact dates. But you'll see there's lots of options for your kid to take it. And assuming, depending where you are, if they're able to, as we mentioned, do that test prep in the summer between junior year, then they'll be ready to go at the beginning of junior year to take it for the very first time. And I do recommend, just as a heads up, we talked about this last night as well, but typically they say to register 4 to 5 weeks in advance for these tests. So, if you're marking on your calendar for August or September or whatever of junior year, make sure you also mark somewhere between 4 to kind of 6 weeks ahead of time to make sure they register so they can go to the closest testing center and the one they want and just be comfortable and make sure they can get in. So that's number 4. Breezing through these tonight, and maybe it's good to do them twice in a row. Now we know all the questions and everything. All right, so date number 5, and then we'll take a break after this from standardized tests. But number 5 is to retake this either the SAT or the ACT tests spring and summer of junior year. So it's really common. I know this isn't ideal. People are like hoping like my kid's just going to take the test and get a perfect score the first time. And I'm all for you if that happens. That's awesome. But if not, it is totally normal to take this test 2 to 3 times. That's kind of the average. Some kids even take it 4 times. So I do suggest taking it for that first time, like I mentioned at the beginning of junior year, so that you have time to retake it spring and summer, so that if they don't get the score they want, they have some time to take a breather and then restudy those things that they need to improve, to get better, and to aim for that score that they're really hoping to get. So some kids will take the test again at the very beginning of senior year. The earlier the better senior year, but the reason I say to get it out of the way if you can is that senior year gets really, really busy with applications, with essays, with just a lot going on. So if you can get it out of the way, that's awesome. But if you want to take that test just one more time, like you're hoping to raise that score a little bit, it's absolutely okay to do this as early as possible as you can senior year as well, so you can get the score back in time and still submit those applications when you need to. Anything else here? On to number 6. All right. So date number 6 is to ask for letters of recommendations the last 2 to 3 weeks of junior year. So as I mentioned before, and I know we probably have some rising seniors, so it's not too late to still ask this summer, but I want to kind of break down the reasons why. So let's actually go to the next slide here, Debbie, if you don't mind. So there's 3 benefits of asking for these letters of recommendation from teachers or elsewhere the end of junior year instead of the very beginning of senior year, which was when I asked, which is when most people think you're supposed to ask, because that's what's typically been done. And so here are the 3 reasons. The first is that teachers are going to be really busy working on other letters of recommendation senior year. So again, we like to think like we're the only ones in the world and the teacher just loves us and can write everything. But the truth is that they're probably writing like 20 other letters of recommendation right at the beginning of senior year. So if you can ask earlier, they just kind of give them some breathing room. They have more time to think about it, and they're not doing 100 other recommendations. They also have a lot more spare time during this summer as well, just like your kids. So if you think about a teacher, right, it's September and the beginning of the year, they're still learning about everything with their students. They're getting used to the school year. They're working on their curriculum. They're writing letters of recommendation. They're really, really, really busy. Whereas if you ask at the end of junior year and kind of give them the summer, they have more downtime and they can really spend more time, thinking about your student and writing a great letter of recommendation. And then the last benefit, in addition to those other really 2 important reasons, is that teachers are going to remember more specifically some examples and a lot more about your child. So again, we like to think we are the most important people in the world, and how could a teacher forget anything we ever do? But the reality is that, after the summer months pass, they don't remember as many specific examples and as much about, the ins and outs and intricacies of your child and the relationship they had and the types of questions they asked during class and all of that. So those are the 3, kind of really main reasons that it's great to ask early if possible. Some teachers might actually say no, and they don't want to do it until, fall of senior year, and that's okay. But it's good to ask. So anything else here, Debbie, before we...
Maybe just talk a little bit about, and people asked about it last night, a brag sheet, a resume. Yeah. Are those good? Like A, what a brag sheet is, and B, is it good to give the person who you're asking for a recommendation a copy of those things?
Yes, this is a great question. I think this is like where everything went haywire last night. We got cut off in the middle of it. So we're here to answer this and then move forward too. So I love this. So what Debbie's talking about is what some people call a brag sheet. So I know for all of these dates, kind of FYI, I'm going top line of the things that you kind of need to know. And I'll talk a little bit. I have an online course that I'll mention at the end that really goes deeper into each of those, of like how to study for the SATs and like when to prepare and how to do the essays and all of these things, including asking for great letters of recommendation. But a brag sheet is one way that you can basically, I'll give you a template to fill out for your kid that has a lot of questions that you kind of assume that teachers might know, but that they really don't know as much about your kid. So what are your kids' interests? Where do they want to apply to college and why? What do they want to study? What did they love about the class that they took with that teacher? And so many more different questions, so that when a teacher goes to write that letter of recommendation, it's not like a blank slate where they're like, oh my God, what do I say about this kid? But I don't know. Whereas if you do this sheet and you answer all these questions and sit down and have this conversation and give this piece of paper to the teacher, when they go to write that letter of recommendation, then say, here's Teresa. I know she's really passionate about this and she's applying to college for this. And this is kind of the story she wants to tell in her application. And here's how I can add to that story, as her teacher and from what I saw. So it's a really important way just to help the teacher write a really great letter of recommendation for your kid that fits the story. And I really teach a lot of what I love to teach the most, I think is different than a lot of college counselors and other people help with, is kind of that holistic story of who is your kid and what are they really intrinsically interested in and why do they want to go to school, and so why is that school going to want to accept them? And the letter of recommendation is one more piece of that puzzle that really ties into the whole story. So that's kind of the gist of it, just to get a top line that a lot of people, again, I didn't know this was a thing when I applied to school. I think I just asked a teacher and was like, great, like, write what you want to write. I just didn't know any better. So it's super helpful.
So there's a question, Marissa, about how many recommendation letters do you need ideally?
Yeah, so every school is a little bit different. So once you start to get that list together, I always recommend, and I always hate, I'm like, I wish there was just one solid answer. It's just like a general thing for every single school, and it's never the case. So it could be, some schools might require only one, some might require two teachers and, somebody else, like a coach or something like that. So there's no one solid answer. I would say on average, it's probably good to assume you'll need at least 2 letters of recommendations from teachers. And the other thing we kind of mentioned last night, Debbie, that that I think is super helpful is to start thinking early on, if possible, about who might write those letters of recommendation for your kid. So, especially junior year, because that's the most recent, but, if they're taking these classes and they kind of feel a draw to a teacher, they're doing really well in the subject, or maybe a subject that they, started out not doing well, but really improved. So a teacher can talk about that. But to get to know the teacher and really spend some time, like if that's a teacher you want to ask at the end of the year, spend 5 minutes once a week, just go to class a little bit early and get to know your teacher as a real person and let them know you as a real person and not just about, what math questions can you answer and, how did you do on the test? Like, get to know them, because it's going to really, really show in those letters of recommendation if they know your kid on a more personal level.
Definitely.
All right. So we are moving farther than last night, which is so exciting. All right. Date number 7 is, sorry guys, we're back to standardized tests. We couldn't escape them for long. Is to take the I can't even speak, the AP and SAT subject test, if applicable. And this is around May and June, and it's sophomore, junior, and or senior year, because this depends on when your kid takes particular subjects and particular AP classes. So I think the best way to do it, I actually did 2 different slides on APs and SAT subject tests, because a lot of parents sometimes don't know that they're 2 different things and what they are. So I want to quickly just kind of go into that. So AP test stands for Advanced Placement. So if your kid is taking an AP class in high school, then it really does a lot of benefit to take this test. It's usually in May at the end of the school year. And a lot of times your kid's high school will ask everybody in that class who wants to take the test, and they'll help them get enrolled and all of that. But be proactive just in case they don't, to make sure that your kid is taking it. And in my opinion, this is also one you don't have to report to school. So if they don't do as well, there's really no, it's kind of like the PSATs, like there's no harm. But if they do well, there's a lot of benefit to it. So basically, again, you can take this sophomore, junior, or senior year. Mostly it's students who are in their junior and senior year. Again, it's in May. I'm just going through these bullet points, and it's best to take it right after they finish that course. So technically, if they took a class junior year and they didn't take the test, they could take it again they could take that test senior year, but they're going to have to really study a lot. So the whole point is that you spend a whole year learning this material, and then you take the test right at the end. Also, what's interesting to know is that you could take an AP test without having taken an AP class. So if your kid is just like a whiz at history and they didn't take an AP, certain class, but they just like could study a little bit and ace the test, then they're welcome to do that. You don't actually have to take the class, but most people do, just because it's typical that they, learn the subject and then take the class. So you might be wondering, like, what's the importance of taking an AP test if you don't even have to submit it, and schools don't require it or anything like that? And the benefit is that your kid can gain college credit at some schools, not all. So you want to check with the schools that they end up applying to, but they can actually get credit for if they get, let's say, usually it's a 3, 4, or 5, sometimes just a 4 or 5. The AP tests are graded from 1 to 5. And this is beneficial because once they get to school, let's say I took 3 different AP classes and got a high score, or 3 tests, and then I get to college, that would have counted as taking 3 full classes already at that college. So if that's the case for me, I could then either take a lighter course load, for several semesters in school, which, again, these are things I didn't really comprehend when I was in high school, and was like, oh my God, this was so beneficial. So by taking a lighter course load, they can breathe a little more, not be as stressed, focus on classes, and perform better. Or what I had a lot of my friends actually did, who came in with a lot of credits, is that they actually finished school a whole semester early because they had a semester's worth of AP credits. And they just stuck around senior year. Some of them, had an internship or a job, or just kind of like hung out. And so it saves your family a whole semester's worth of tuition. So again, they can either just kind of take it easier or save money. And that's really the benefit of AP tests. All right, so then I want to move on to the SAT subject tests. And this confuses a lot. I feel like I wish the College Board had named it something different, because it's so confusing to people. So I want you to think about, you have your SATs and your ACTs. There's the standardized test, that's one bucket. And then you have the AP test, that's another little bucket. And then the third bucket is SAT subject tests. And these are 1 hour long standardized tests. So it is the same company that does the SATs, and that's why it's called this. But they're given on specific subjects that your kid takes in school. So it might be, a chemistry or Spanish, or, a very specific course they've taken in school. And so the best time to take the SAT subject test is at the end of the school year that they took that particular subject. So Debbie and I were talking about this last night, actually. This one's an interesting one because subject tests are not required by all schools, but some schools, and definitely some more of the more competitive schools, do require either specific ones or certain, take at least 1 or 2 or something like that. So the earlier on your kid kind of gets an idea of the specific schools or types of schools they're going to want to apply to, just start looking at the requirements for the applications and see if it's a requirement. So as Debbie said to me last night, a lot of colleges are not requiring these as often. I know she was saying with her son, they're it's not maybe none of them are even required anymore. But I always say to check, and sometimes just take it to be safe, because what you don't want to happen is, come September, October, November of senior year, when your kid decides to apply to some school, and they require it, and your kid hasn't taken that test, and you don't want that to be the barrier for them not to be able to apply. So Debbie, I don't know if you wanted to, give another word based on your experience lately.
Yeah, no, I would just say that this particular test, and I mentioned this last night, I mentioned it today, that I have 3 kids. My oldest, the age span is 6 years, so I've been through this process twice, and I'm going through it for the 3rd time. And when my oldest was going through it, actually the SAT subject test only 6 years ago was a big deal. Like, a lot of the schools required it. They actually required 2 sometimes. So, we were on top of it. My oldest had to take, she took, 2 SAT subject tests. By the time my middle one, which is was 3 years later, a lot of schools were starting to phase it out. They just were not as interested in it anymore. I mean, there is this trend that on some level, the schools, are trying to downplay these tests. And as part of that, they just didn't really feel that the subject tests were that necessary. And I think that that's continuing. So now, in my journey, so 6 years later now with my son, very few schools really are asking for the subject test. The only reason it's on our radar, and I'll give you my personal, or my son's personal interest, is that he is thinking, because a lot that might change, but thinking about wanting to major in engineering. And engineering as a major tends to be one of the majors that is still requiring these subject tests. They usually require the math one and one of the science ones. So that seems to be the area that's holding out in wanting these subject tests, which kind of makes a little sense. I think they want to make sure that the kids who are going to go into engineering maybe are stronger in those areas. But other than that, a lot of the other schools and the majors are not. So it's unfortunate. One of those things you have to just check. There's no blanket answer. You have to just see what each school is doing this year. And even from now to September, it could change. But definitely start looking.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, so we're just pointing out the dates to be mindful of. It's kind of up to you based on whether you think it's important for your kid to take one of these tests. But again, it's around kind of that May or June time is ideal, right after they finish that course in high school. And then just so kind of the way logistically it works, which is helpful to know, is that SAT subject tests are actually given on the same test days and testing centers as the SATs. So you can't take both the SAT at that month and this SAT subject test. They're literally kind of like almost in the same room. Think about it, the same testing centers as people taking the other ones. So you can take up to 3 SAT subject tests on that same day. So, you do like 1 hour and the next hour and the next hour if they want to, or you could just do 1 or just do 2, but it logistically kind of works, registering the same way and the same kind of 4 to 5 week advance registration. So just
that's a good point, because I guess the important thing is that if your child is going to do a subject test, you want to kind of plan it with the other tests that they're going to have to take, whether it's an ACT or an SAT. You want to know the spacing, or give them a little breather between one or the other. So it's just part of the planning.
Yes, I know. And I'm like, my heart goes out to everybody because I remember the stress of it, and it's really it is a lot of work and a lot of pressure on the kids. So the best way you can at least get ahead of it and know what's coming. And it's a tough process. It really is. So number 8 is to start, and this is for people who have got rising seniors. This is especially important for you guys, is to start working on college essays. I say August, before the start of senior year, and even earlier, honestly, if they want, during the summer. So I have this little kid here because they're going to be so much happier. They're going to feel like this when it's done, or at least like have a lot of the base done before they start senior year. As I mentioned, I think it's hard to comprehend, and Debbie knows, she's had kids who have been through it, is that there's so much going on the fall of senior year by the time you're visiting schools and filling out applications and just the stress of everything. Like, the more you can get done earlier on, it's just going to be like, you're going to breathe a little better. It's going to be easier. Your kid will be a whole lot less stressed. And that's my main goal. So the way this works, and I go into a lot more detail inside of my course, I teach like exactly how to write each of the essays. But the main thing I at least want to talk about for this date is that with the personal statement, those questions are the same as last year, so they can already start working on those. So if you just do a quick Google search of like personal statement questions, there's like a list of 7 or 8 of them that they can choose from, and one of which is write about anything you want. But some of the prompts just kind of give them a guide and ideas to start with. And again, I can teach how to choose topics and things like that. But if they start now, what's going to happen is that they're going to have time to write drafts of these essays, and then take a step back and take a step away, maybe let another teacher or a parent or a friend or whoever to like look at it, and then come back with fresh eyes, so that you're not like down to the wire trying to write something, feeling stressed. And then that's when the mistakes happen. So, colleges really do judge for spelling and grammar on top of content. And what I've seen in my experience is those kind of mistakes really slip in when they're editing last minute, and you flip something in that someone suggested, and it looks, you're so tired and you can't even see it. So again, starting as early as possible, because sometimes, some kids will get it right away, and some kids kind of write 2 or 3 drafts, and they're like, oh my gosh, I have this new idea and I'm actually going to write about this. But it really is a process to kind of get that out and start to feel it. So your kid might hate you for it if you tell them to start like during their summer, because I know that's their break and the time to relax. But blame me and trust me when I say the earlier you do it, really the better off you'll be. All right. So number 9 is identifying each application deadline the very beginning of senior year. So once you have, that short list of schools that your kid is going to apply to, it's really important to look at the application deadlines. So there's 4 different types. There's early decision, early action, rolling admissions, and regular decision. And if you go to this next page, actually, Debbie, there's some little pictures. I'll kind of talk about the deadlines.
Can I just add this? Actually, there's sometimes some schools now are having 2 early decision dates.
Yes, or like 2 early, it's like early action 1, early action 2. There's so many. So yeah, I'm kind of generalizing these. There sometimes are, as Debbie said, like multiple dates within each of these. So that's why it's just as soon as you start to get that list, or even think about which schools your kid might apply to. Again, I have like a spreadsheet that I use that I share inside my course, but I think it's super helpful just to like write out that list of schools and write out the dates so that nothing is a surprise. So I just want to quickly break down what each of these kind of mean and when you'll start thinking about them, just so you kind of have it on your radar. So rolling admission, it's becoming kind of less and less common, but this happens, it's called rolling because schools start basically usually around August 1st or so, sometimes September, and they start accepting applications on a rolling basis, which means there's no, particular deadlines. You just kind of can submit it anytime. They look at all the applications as they come in, and they accept them or reject them. But they make these decisions as these applications, I say it's like rolling because they just are on a rolling basis. So with these, it's so important to apply as early as possible because the class starts to fill up. So because, there is no actual deadline where they look at them all together, if your kid waits until there's no spots left at the school, even if they're the best candidate, there might just literally not be any room left. So again, just the earlier, the better with that one. So for example, when I applied to the University of Michigan, it was rolling applications back then. And another benefit, for example, I found out in October that I was accepted. And so I didn't have to apply to a bunch of safety schools because I knew that I wanted to attend that school over pretty much every school anyway. So it can also just be a good kind of like safety guard for kids who then just know that they're in somewhere and hopefully it's a school they're excited about. So that's rolling admission. The next are early decision and early action. And I kind of group these together, but they might have a little bit nuanced different timing. So again, check the specific schools. But these are sometime around early to mid-November. And I just want to kind of explain the difference between the two. So early decision is an application where your kid has said, this is the school I absolutely want to attend the most. And if I get in, I will 100% go there. So if a kid is accepted early decision, the benefit is that so I guess the hard part is that they have to fill out those applications a little bit earlier. You have to get them done. you choose that one school, and the benefit is that you might find out earlier on. So sometimes, it's hard to say each school is different, if it's like more competitive or less competitive with these, but really it's just important. It's like, make sure that's the number one school that your kid wants to go to. There's also some implications, which I know we're just kind of talking about dates and deadlines here, but I teach inside my course that, it may not be right to do early decision if financial aid is really important for your kid, because you're bound to one school and you get what you get versus having different choices. So that's a whole different subject for another day. But just know that early decision is, you submit that application in kind of mid-November. You find out usually sometime in December, and you're bound to go. Early action, on the other hand, not to be confused, I feel like they just like to confuse everybody with such similar names because it's not confusing enough already. Early action is similar timing to early decision, but your kid isn't bound. So not always. Some schools might say you can only apply to us early action. That's not usually the case, but it's possible. But typically, early action means you still basically just say, I'm interested enough in your school to fill this out early on, to take the time to get it done. And you get a decision earlier, again, that same kind of December timing, but you still can then apply to school's regular decision later. And you still have the free choice to pick and choose any school that you get accepted to. So again, those are similar timing, but early decision, you must attend that school if you get in, and early action, you still have choices. You just get the benefit of knowing earlier. So then lastly is regular decision. And that is typically, the submission deadline is around January 1st. But again, always check the individual schools because they might differ. And that's just the time when pretty much the majority of students are all submitting their application. And then they look at all those applications together and make the final decision. So again, inside my course, I teach a whole, lot about the strategy of which one to apply to and why, because there are certain reasons, but at least for this, I want you to understand just the timing implications of each.
And I would say the other important thing, obviously, when you narrow down the list of schools that your students are applying to, and then you see these deadlines, and I would really lay it out like on a timeline or in a spreadsheet. It might also drive, what essays your student should be working on. Because if some of the schools have additional supplemental essays, obviously you're going to need to have them according to the application deadline that the student is applying for.
Yes, absolutely wonderful point. Yeah, so for example, if there's like a rolling admission or early decision deadline, you want to work on those essays and applications first, and then let those other ones work on later. Unless you're an A+ person and you're getting all of them done so early in the summer, like we said. But
Marissa, yeah. I'm not gonna. There's a few people who have asked questions, and they're good questions, but I'm just gonna hold them till the end. So I want you guys to know. Cheryl M. Barul, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, we're gonna ask your question, but I'm just gonna hold it to a little bit later. Yana is asking, and you may not know this, Marissa, and I'm going to probably suggest that she check it on their website, is asking about the CUNY schools, which are the city schools of New York, yep. City University of New York, and asking, do they like it when the kids apply early to those schools, or SUNY schools? No, it's CUNY. These are CUNY students. And do they like it? Do those schools particularly have early admissions? And honestly, I don't know offhand. I think you'd need to look up those particular schools and check them out, about what their particular application deadlines are.
Yeah, for sure. I know. I wish I offhandedly magically knew all the schools in my brain, which I don't. But I think the kind of lesson for these is that, again, they're all nuanced based on your state and where you are and where you're looking. So just to kind of be aware of the options that might exist, so that you can then go to the particular schools that you think your kid might be interested in and start to get a feel for what those options are. But I want you to at least be able to go to that school's website and say early action. I know what that means and why. So yeah.
Can I just say one other thing? Just to be on the safe side, I would go directly to the school website to get the final information about deadlines. There are a ton of other websites that people have put together for searching purposes, and they might be good for that reason, but when it comes to really wanting to double check on the deadline dates, don't rely on a third-party website, go to the college website.
Yep, absolutely. I know it's really a pain. I always wish there was like a magic wand I could wave and just like have all the information. But yeah, the truth is it's like you got to kind of arm yourself with the knowledge of what to do and then really look for the individual schools that your kid is thinking about and go to their actual websites. All right, so date number 10, we are getting close to the end, which is exciting. Okay, so this one, I know it's really important to everybody, is financial aid and scholarship deadlines. So the kind of big date to take away here is October 1st. And this is when the Fafsa, that's the financial aid form that you'll fill out to get federal, financial aid funding potentially from schools, is released October 1st of your kid's senior year. So you don't have to worry about it before then, but it is really important. And Debbie, I know, deals a lot more with the kind of financial aid and money stuff than I do, but it's so important to just fill it out as close to October 1st as possible, because some states give funding away on a kind of a first come, first serve basis. So if you wait too long, not to say you won't get any money, but the money might be given away. So I always just say, to be safe, put October 1st, mark it in the calendar for your kid's senior year and make sure you're filling out the FAFSA during this time. And then also, this is where I want to wave a magic wand again, but then I say unique dates for each school, because unfortunately schools have their own deadlines for scholarship applications for their own merit or sometimes need-based scholarships. And so again, the FAFSA is October 1st, but sometimes you have to fill out additional applications and forms for each individual school that your kid is applying to, and they have their own dates as well. So it's just to kind of go check their specific website, call the financial aid office if you have absolutely any questions. They're really helpful, and just make sure you're staying on top of each particular school.
Yeah, and one other thing, as we talked about all those application deadlines, if your child is applying either early action or early decision, sometimes that school wants the FAFSA early too. So they might have a deadline, that's either the same deadline for early application or early admissions, or early action, or maybe it's a week later. But I would, again, double check that, because that might affect whether or not the application is even reviewed if the FAFSA isn't filled out and the financial aid information isn't there at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we can kind of breeze through this. If you want to go to the next slide quickly, it's kind of it's the same information, but just a visual so you can understand it. There's kind of like these 3 buckets of potential aid. I'm a very visual person, so I just wanted to show this to you, so maybe it's helpful for you. And that's the federal government aid, the state aid, and then the financial institution. So the FAFSA, cover those 2 in yellow. That's that kind of October 1st timing. And then the school itself, again, they have their own deadlines. So that next slide there just says, if I can't say anything else, is don't wait. And because you technically have I think it's over a year to submit the FAFSA, which is crazy. But I say just ingrain October 1st in your head and submit it then. And
so somebody's asking, when's the earliest you can apply to FAFSA? And it's October 1st when it goes live.
Yeah, of that senior year. So you don't, if you have a rising freshman or sophomore or junior, you can start learning about it if you want, so you understand what it is. And I think it's helpful, but you don't have to actually submit anything until October 1st of senior year. So you can click this next one, Debbie. We already went over that. And then those are the 10 most important dates. So, I'll send these slides out. If you haven't already done so, send me your email. But this next slide here, I just kind of want to take a second, if it's okay with you guys, to share a little bit about my course and understand in this next slide here, Debbie, why you guys joined tonight, right? So a lot of people I know are overwhelmed by all of the information out there, right? There's forums and there's blog posts and there's books and there's all of these things, and it's just really overwhelming that it's so much information. I call it information overload, right? There's almost too much information to even sort through. A lot of people just don't know who to turn to for answers. And, the school often doesn't, the college counselors these days really are working on a lot of the forums and talking to colleges. They're not super helpful for actually teaching you what you need to know about the college admissions process. Hence why I do what I do, why Debbie does what she does, why there's all these groups, because that's not really their job. Their job is to make sure that schools are getting the paperwork and all of the grades and things like that. And then the last part is a lot of parents are just really scared to get started. So I at least want to say I'm really proud of all of you for being here tonight to start to learn this information and really just to start understanding everything, because the more that you can get ahead of it and understand what's going to come in the process, you just feel a whole lot more at ease. So I want you to take a second. I know this exercise is funny, but I just want you to, close your eyes and think about the day when your child is sitting at their computer senior year and they're about to click that submit button to send their first college application. And again, whether that's 5 months from now or 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, I just want you to imagine feeling totally confident that you did everything in your power to prepare them for that moment, to set them up for success in college and beyond. So I know that's why you guys are here today, and that's why I am here to help you. So the question is, how can you become completely prepared? This is the next slide here, Debbie. But how can you guys become completely prepared to help your child navigate through this whole entire process? So to help them become the strongest possible candidate, to help them get the standardized test scores that they need. And how do you even know which scores to aim for? Whether you choose, they take the AP or honors or regular classes. Are they participating in the right extracurricular activities? How do they stand out on the application? So we've got a lot of the dates and the deadlines here now, but I always, Debbie knows before, I used to have this iceberg picture where it's we just, covered the top, but there's so much to learn underneath it to ensure, that they're choosing the right schools and the right deadlines and basically having the best possible chances of not necessarily just getting into the quote unquote best schools, but the schools that, what I really preach is that are going to be the right schools for them. So on the next slide here, so inside my course, I teach in just 7 days, spending less than 1 hour per day. I teach everything you need to know to help them get accepted to those schools that they're really going to thrive in. So on the next slide here, it's called the 7-Day College Admissions Crash Course for Parents. And it teaches your kid how to become a standout candidate, how to really complete an awesome application, and how to actually prepare throughout, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year if they're already a rising senior, how to prepare and become that best applicant, and then how they show that and tell their story so they can get accepted to those correct schools. So it really teaches everything from A to Z. And I think what parents love is they have access to this forever. So my whole goal when I created this was to create a course where parents could go and learn in details quickly, right? I think you could search and scour the internet for a year on end, and it took me over a year to take all the condensed information that I knew and put it together in a way that was quick and easy to learn, but actually teaching you what you need to know. And then a lot of parents will go through it and then refer back to it as, if they learn about the essays, then as they're writing them, they go back and have their kids watching all of that. So it really is for the parents to empower you. And then a lot of parents will have the kids kind of watch along some of them too. So on the next slide, and I don't want to get too into the weeds, but I want you to just have an idea of kind of what's included. So some of them are the dates and deadlines that we talked about tonight, but that's just section 1. So then we really dig down deep into everything about standardized tests, what scores to aim for, and how to look at each school and know, what that goal to aim for is. All about essays, how to brainstorm topics, how to write each one. There's super detailed information, and that's one of my favorite things to teach. And how you take that and really create a strong, cohesive application, telling your kid's story. It also talks about the resume, how to get honors and awards, and what to do and how to prepare for college interviews, how to choose the right schools. I have this whole 5-part process that I think is super important that a lot of parents ask about and love. And then as we touched about tonight, this application deadlines, how to choose each one for each school and how to improve your chances based on each of those deadlines. And then the last day is all about financial aid and scholarships. So that's kind of top line. And then on this next slide here is what exactly is included. So I know a lot of people are like, what the hell is an online course? I don't even know, and I don't understand. So I know this is kind of new for a lot of people, but basically it's, think about me talking to you right now. It's these kind of short, so there's 7 kind of buckets, there's 7 days, and there's miniature videos within each one. So if it's about a resume or how to get awards, each one has me kind of talking to you just like I did tonight. And I hope you can see that, I think that my talent, what I love to do is take this information and then explain it to you in a way that's easy and not overwhelming. And so it breaks it down kind of video by video of, exactly what you need to know. And there's really helpful worksheets and links and resources so that you're just totally completely prepared. And again, with each one too, there's also a workshop recording of how to fill out the Common Application. So if this is super important if you have a rising senior. And then I also include a list of 100 scholarships that are kind of these outside scholarships that your kid can apply to that I've scoured the internet and found for you. So the cost of a one-on-one college consultant, and I have this number here on the next slide, on average, it typically costs around $4,000, and this is average. Some one-on-one consultants will charge far more than this just to help your kid through this process. And what I wanted to do is make this knowledge available to more families who can't afford, that type of investment. So, I would charge that much working one-on-one with someone, but I, again, took a full year to record all these videos and put all of my knowledge and everything that I would teach working with you one-on-one in a recorded way that you can listen and watch and learn everything that you need to know without the cost of that. So you might be wondering, what is the investment for this course? So typically, if you were to go to my website today, I charge $997. But Debbie knows I offer this because I love her and I love this group. I'm not charging that. So there's a special price that's available only until midnight tonight on this next slide here. And there's 2 options you'll see. So if you go to topcollegetome.com/road-to-college, I think Debbie might be able to put the link in the notes. I can't see the comments. But there's a special price, and it starts at $297 for one option. And I even included a pricing plan for just $87 a month for 4 months because there's a couple options. I want it to be affordable at a price that works for you guys. And I think that making this investment really sparks something inside of you to take the course, learn what you need to know, and just kind of ease your fears and get ahead of the process. And it really is so helpful. So on the next slide here, Debbie knows I love the gifts. I love them so much. So there's 2 types of parents, I always say. The first is the DIY parent. And this is someone who is like, I'm going to figure it out all myself. I'm going to read everything. I'm going to do everything. And this is totally possible. As Debbie said in some past Facebook Lives we've done before, it is a full-time job. Like I said, it took me a year knowing everything that I know to condense this and put this together for you. And I think, you can do a lot of research. You get kind of mixed results of blog posts and what you should and shouldn't do. And I think the goal of what I had is to give one trusted source of, these are the things that you need to know. And also a lot of tips that you might not even know to search for, right? So there's things you kind of have an idea, but there's a lot of things and tips that people go through my course and they're like, I thought I knew everything, but like there's so many tips and tricks in here that I never would have even thought to research. And that's really my goal. So on the next slide here, I just wanted to share a quick email that I actually got just a couple of days ago. I think it was like 5 days ago. And it was from a parent who was a member of Debbie's group who bought my course last year. And she just said, I'm going to read it to you because I think it's so important. She said, I wanted to say how much I appreciated your course last year. I did your course as my rising senior was getting serious with college tours and SAT exams. I found your course very helpful in that it gave me a more up-to-date view of the crazy college entry scene and gave me a little more credibility and justified insight when I debated with my very sincere and diligent daughter about the application process, college visits, and essays, etc. things worked out great. My daughter successfully did early decision and got accepted at Swarthmore and is really happy with the decision. I'm sure I will revisit your materials when my rising sophomore is closer to her college decision time as well. Best regards and many thanks. So on the next slide here, you'll see, I say this is parent B, who follows. I love the gifts, right? So really, I mean, truly, it's just a process that, puts you at ease and gives you the ability. I think the important thing with that testimonial as well, and she just sent me this note offhand, but it kind of gives you an excuse, like for me to be the bad cop. Parents are like, you have to do this, you have to do that, and kids will push back, but it's, you can tell them to watch certain lessons and courses, and it's because I said so, it's a whole lot easier to work with your kid. So the other thing I want to mention on this next slide is that I do offer a 60-day money-back guarantee. I've never had anybody ask for it because truly the course is really so helpful. I wholeheartely believe in it, but I know before purchasing it, you can be like, I don't know how do you know what's inside of something like that? So I just want to say that, no questions asked. If you watch the videos and you go through the course and it doesn't work for you, I stand by this offer, but I hope that you don't need it. So if you're ready to join, you just go to the URL of talkcollegetome.com/road-to-college, and you'll see a little form. You'll actually see two different choices first before you see this of which package you want to do. And then you have the choice of the full or the payment plans that are far fewer per month because, again, I really want it to be possible for everybody. So on the next slide, once you do that, you get an email right away. You get access to the course, and then you have access to it forever, which I think is really great. So as you saw with someone who had a senior, she went through it, had certain parts, and then as she has a sophomore, people really do go back and watch those videos as they're relevant to the things that they're going through at that time. So again, you have access to it forever. It never goes away as long as it exists. And then one last thing here is that I wanted to offer a bonus because for people who take action, I think it's just so important. A lot of people could benefit so much and they're on the verge and they don't know what to do. And I want to give you a bonus for taking action and making this because I personally know the difference that it can make with your family and with your kids. So for those of you sign up before, we'll have time to do some Q&A in just a minute. If you sign up before we get off, I'm going to send you 2 interviews that I personally did and recorded with these 2 separate kids who each got accepted to every single Ivy League school. And whether or not your kid wants to go to Ivy League school or not, these 2 boys have so much insight into how they prepared, why they got accepted to all of these schools when they were, they felt like they were an average kid just like everybody else. And they share all their kind of behind the scenes, the tips and tricks that they did. So if you sign up now, I will personally reply and send you an email with access to both of these recordings. So
Marissa, I'm just curious, what type of ideal parent is this for? Meaning a parent with a student in 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade. If I'm a parent with a rising 12th grader, is this still valuable?
Yeah, that's such a fabulous question. So it truly is helpful for parents of rising freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. So the seniors, kind of like tonight, there might be a couple of things at the beginning that you've already done. But I always tell parents to watch it start to finish anyway, because it's so helpful. So we did this last year. I think Debbie and I did a Facebook Live last August and had a ton of, it was specifically for rising seniors. Just the kind of topic that we did. And we had, I can't even remember, 20, 30 people signed up for the course who had rising seniors. And it's so helpful because during this crunch time, it's going to teach you how to write those essays, how to narrow down, choose the schools, figure out which application deadlines, and also what to do after the application is submitted, because there are other steps afterwards that a lot of parents don't realize. And then before that, I think, starting as early as possible, but it's never too late. If you start as early as freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, it really just gives you the roadmap so that I always tell parents, even if you buy it freshman year, watch it start to finish all the way through, because it's like, I think the unknown is what's so scary about the college process. So when you understand every part of it you're going to have to do, over the next couple of years, one, you can help your kid prepare better. And I teach it in a way that's not like, do these things just to look good on a college application, but really helping you understand, what is your kid actually really good at? What do they love to do? How can they build this story in a really natural and authentic way throughout their years in high school, so that they can then tell their story? So if you watch it earlier, it's going to help you have the roadmap and learn how to help your kid have that story to tell. And if you're in the thick of it, like about to apply this year, it's going to teach you how to take what they've already done, build that story, and really just kill it with the application process, in the coming months.
I'm going to add one thing for everybody too, to just understand or know, like, about Marissa. But in addition to doing college admissions, actually Marissa works a lot with people, kind of helping them figure out their careers in general. And right, Marissa, a lot of students who have graduated college and didn't kind of figure it out along the way. And so why I bring that up is because I think the way she approaches teaching the admissions process are skills that you and your student will learn and can be applied in a lot of other situations, particularly as they're in college, as they need to get internships, as they need to write that resume, multiple times in college, as they need to interview for internships and actual jobs after graduation. It's really the same process. And telling your story throughout their life, they're going to have to figure out how to tell their story. So this is just the first time they're encountering it, but they're going to have to do it over and over again.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't always mix the two, but truly one of my passions, and it's the kind of reason my worlds overlapped in this way, of teaching college admissions and also, again, helping people with their careers and helping college students figure out what they want to do. And I really take this process and I put it into my course to help high school students ask the right questions. Like, there's all these questions that I study and learn that, nobody ever asked me. Like, I know it sounds, all like existential, but who are they? What do they enjoy? What do they like? What do they want to do? What are they interested in? And I know that, it's so hard to know in high school, but to start asking these questions, to start giving them this introspective look and actually following the things that really excite them and becoming a stronger college applicant doing these things. And it could be totally random, of like doing magic tricks, if that's their thing. Like, I will teach you inside the course, how do you make your kid look totally awesome about, all around magic tricks and telling their story. And there's ways to do that. And I think that's really what differentiates me a lot from a lot of the other people that teach this, is that, again, not only do I kind of teach you the general things you need to know, but really how to apply that to your kid and make them feel great about who they are and what they do. And it's so helpful, to have this information as they move forward through college and into their adult life too.
So, Marissa, somebody's asking about, and I don't remember when you went over what's in the course, about test prep. Not that I know the test prep isn't in the course, but they're asking if you give any recommendations of online test preps courses.
Yeah, so I'll have to look at it too. I know a couple of people just like through the world that I know do online test prep. I should look into this more. I don't have a preference or like a particular one that I always do, because there's so many different price ranges that I don't always like to recommend one. So if you want to send us an email, I can kind of shoot you a note afterwards and let you know. So yeah, inside my course, I don't do actual test prep. I'm not going to help your kid, learn math questions and reading thing comprehension. That's what SAT and ACT tutors are for. So my SAT kind of ACT part of it is teaching you how do you look at a school's website and see their scores and things from past years and know what calculates as a reach and a match and a safety school and what scores to aim for and all of that. But I'm happy to answer any questions. And I'm personally a fan of online learning. I know there's, Khan Academy is a free resource that really does teach, the SAT and ACT test prep. Their whole thing is they want to, make it free for everybody. So that's a resource you could at least start with. I know there's one that I think does a really good job called Green Test Prep, but it's, super expensive on the other end. So it's also a good question to kind of ask in the Facebook communities if anybody's had particularly good experience with a certain one, but I'm happy to give some recommendations as well. And then we can do some more questions, Deb, if you want to go to the last slides, just so people can see the link again. But yeah, if you join tonight, again, I want to give the benefit to those people who take action, because again, I know for learning, if you don't do it tonight, a lot of people, even if you intend to, you forget to. So I'm really, purposely giving it till midnight tonight. Again, you have that 60-day deadline, so you can, go through the course. You can get a refund if it's not right for you, but this particular pricing is available until midnight.
And is the bonus available till midnight?
And the bonus one is just until we get off of this Facebook Live. So that's for like the real action takers. So I'll personally, shoot you an email with those interviews afterwards. And I love them. I think these two guys were some of the most down to earth, like smart, really wonderful people that I talked to. So I'll share those interviews, and that's if you join before this, we'll go over some Q&As. So you can open up a different tab and go to talkcollegetome.com/road2college, and you'll see the two different kind of options of what you can join for the course. And then when you click through, it gives you the option of the pay in full.
So Jane is asking, is the $297 for the complete plan? So it's for the whole, all the modules.
So when you go to that page, you'll see there's a starter plan and a complete plan. And the starter plan is $297, and that has all of those 7 days that I talked about. All of that information is included in that kind of starter plan. And then the complete plan is a little bit more, and it has those additional kind of workshop recordings and those additional 100 scholarships and things like that. So everything that we talked about is included in that starter plan, but there's just a couple of additional things if you want to, make that extra bump. So those are the two kind of options, and it lists them out on the website there. And then whichever one you choose, there's pricing plans for both of them, because again, I want it to be affordable for your family, and that, again, the money allows me to keep doing what I'm doing and share this information and keep updating it and share as much as I can and keep helping you guys. And, I'm available. You'll see if you ever, I always say, tell people, I'm like, I'm here if you need me, but truly the course answers everything everyone needs to know. And I very rarely ever get an email of someone saying like, Marissa, can you teach me this? Or, I didn't understand that. It's super comprehensive. But I am, where to find me. It has my email, and I'm a real person and not just some company that doesn't exist, and I'm here to help, and my goal is really to help you guys succeed. So,
and Anu is asking, does the course advise about AP and honors classes and what might be more attractive for fields like science and math?
Yes, absolutely, and I love this question. So there is a whole section about AP and honors and IB. There's the interbaccalaureate classes. So it breaks down what do each of them mean, why is it important to potentially take it, and why it might be a good decision not to take those, based on the grades that they might get and the schools that they're applying to. So there's a whole section dedicated just to that. And I know it's a hot topic that parents always ask about.
Okay, and so there's one more just general question.
Yeah.
This is from much earlier. Kathleen was asking, saying when a university's website just mentions essay as a requirement and no specific prompt, does that mean that the Common App or the Coalition App essay is the prompt that they need?
Yes, it usually is. And the best way to look is to actually create a account for the Common application and log in. And when you can basically go in and look at each school, and you'll see if it's just asking for one essay, it's generally that personal statement kind of essay prompt. And again, inside the course, they teach you exactly how to brainstorm the topics and write really awesome personal statement. And then you'll see, the reason I recommend just logging into the Common application is because then you'll see within each one of those which schools require supplemental essays and the exact questions that are there. So I would just double check there to be safe. But if their website says it's just one essay, it's usually the personal statement. And that's the same kind of those generic prompts.
Great.
Yeah. Anything else, or any other questions, Debbie, that I didn't cover, kind of about the course or how it works that you think might be useful?
So you call it a 7-day, but I mean, does somebody have to do it in 7 days?
Yes, good question. So my goal when I did this, I created it because I wanted it to feel manageable, that like just for literally a small fraction of a day, in 1 week, you can literally feel totally comfortable about the process. That being said, I know that it's not always possible. You know, your kid might have a soccer tournament, or you're really busy with work or whatnot. So I kind of encourage you to do it day by day, because I know that if you do it and get through it, you're going to be a whole lot happier and more at ease and know what's going on. But certainly, you know, parents get busy and you don't have to do it within those 7 days. So you're welcome to, but if you can do it one day and then you can't do it, you know, for a week, you're more than welcome to do it. And then you have access to it forever. So you can technically go through it, you know, whenever it works for you, and then you have it forever afterwards.
So Iona was just asking about going back to, okay, I'm on the wrong slide. She wanted to know what slide listed the starter plan topics. So this is, oops, hold on. Would it be this one?
If you go to, so it'll just be included if you go to that link to the talkcollegetome.com/road to college. You'll see the two options, the starter and the complete plan, and you'll see what's included in each of those.
Okay, so to get the real details, go to that link, the talkcollegetome.com/road to college.
Yeah, and this one here is what's included on this page is more of the complete plan that has that additional workshop recording and those 100 scholarships and some of those additional kind of resources and things. But other than that, the starter plan has the full 7-day course and, you know, everything you need to know. So if that's the one that works for you, you will be happy with it.
Great.
Anything else?
Anything else, anybody? I so appreciate everyone coming back. Dates.
Yes.
I don't know about you, but I personally like this platform. That's just my little.
Yeah, I love it too.
But I think there was a lot of great information about the timeline, deadlines. I think I did say this last night, and I'll say it again about, you know, deadlines. Unfortunately, this process is a process of, you know, dates and marching forward. And, you know, I don't want to ever say to somebody, well, you can't be helped because you're too late in the process. It's not that what happens is the further along you get into the process, if you don't have a good enough knowledge of what's going on, your options narrow. That's really what happens. So if you can, you know, if you take a course like what Marissa has and you know, at any point, but in particular, if your child is in 9th, 10th, 11th grade, you just have a much better idea of what's ahead, and you can plan, and hopefully you won't miss an opportunity that you and your child, you know, wanted to take advantage of.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with that. So yeah, I hope that, you know, if it resonated with you, that you'll join, and I know you'll get a ton of benefit. And again, you get that bonus. I haven't looked to see it, can't see it at this moment, but hopefully some of you guys have already joined, I think, and then you'll get the bonus of those 2 interviews. And then otherwise by midnight EST tonight. So if you need to talk it over with your spouse, I know Debbie and I have that sometimes that people need to do. But yeah, I mean, shoot me a message if you have a question before then. You can always email me. And I hope to see you inside the course, because again, I truly believe that it changes lives. I've seen it with the parents who've gone through, and they just feel so much more comfortable and really confident about the process. And that's really my whole goal. So
So Cheryl, actually, Marissa, I didn't tell you, but before you even put that picture of the GIF of somebody hyperventilating,
yeah,
Cheryl had typed that in a comment saying, "I'm hyperventilating." And then wrote it.
So funny. Yeah, the goal is to make it so it's not like, I mean, I always, Debbie's heard me say this a lot now, but I always say I wish this job didn't exist, because I think it's so unfortunate that the college process is so complicated, but like it is needed and it is complicated, and people really do feel like that hyperventilating picture, because there's just so many moving parts. So again, my whole goal with creating this course was to do it in a way that, again, just made the process easier, so you know what's coming, you know what's ahead, and you have all the tools and resources and instructions from me on how to do each part of the process.
So, okay. Oh, guys, I hope you really give it a shot. As you can see, Marissa is extremely knowledgeable. This is not the first time we've done a Facebook Live. This is probably the 10th time we've done a Facebook Live. And they've all been different topics.
Yeah, I know.
You know, it's not, what do they call it? A one
something pony? I don't
know. She's a multiple trick pony. And I'm, you know, can absolutely vouch that there's value, not just in, you know, what you get for the price, but just in the just pure knowledge of the course and knowing you can go back and rewatch anything.
Yeah, a lot of people do that. I got an email from someone yesterday who I think bought the course like 2 years ago at this point, and she was saying she just went back. She has another kid going through it and was talking about the essays. So yeah, people really do. You get it, and different parts will be more or less useful at different times, and you have it forever to go back. And especially if you have multiple kids, and you know, I update things as they change. I go in and keep it up to date. So it's super helpful, and I've seen so many parents get so much use from it.
So, okay, well, you guys have till midnight, and you know, you have the link, and we'll and you can come back and watch parts of this Facebook Live again, but definitely check out the course as well.
Perfect. And I saw, I'm trying to look at my phone. I saw Jane just joined. I haven't looked at everybody else. We've got a couple. So so excited you guys are joining. And again, I know it will be helpful. So I hope to see more of you inside, and reach out if you have any questions. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.